a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope.
Good evening. Tonight is very special, and it's a special day for our speaker, but I'll let you find out a little reason why it's so special for him. One of my favorite quotes is from a former delegate to the United Nations General Assembly, a lady by the name of Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." When I was at an educational program for my daughter when she was going into high school, there were 3 words mentioned to her for her future: conceive, believe, achieve. Those 3 little words. Our speaker tonight has earned worldwide recognition as a pioneer in and a champion of civil and human rights. His lifelong dedication to service is illustrated by his extensive leadership experience of over 65 years. A member of Congress, a U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, the mayor of Atlanta, an ordained minister. During the 1960s, he was a key strategist and negotiator during civil rights campaigns that led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He was appointed as ambassador to the United Nations in 1977, and he negotiated an end to the white minority rule in Namibia and Zimbabwe and brought President Carter's emphasis on human rights to international diplomacy efforts. As a 2-term mayor of Atlanta, he brought in over 1,100 new businesses, $70 billion in foreign direct investments, and generated over 1 million jobs. We talk about Rotarians being people of action. This man is a true leader and person of action. He's received honorary degrees from over 100 universities and colleges in the U.S. and abroad, an unbelievable number of awards. He continues to serve on the boards, including Martin Luther King Center for Nonviolent Social Change, the United Nations Foundation, Morehouse College, and the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies at Georgia State. He and his wife, Carolyn, founded the Andrew J. Young Foundation to support and promote education, health, leadership, and human rights in U.S., Africa, and the Caribbean. In 2012, he retired from Good Works International after a decade of facilitating sustainable economic development in the business sections of the Caribbean and Africa. He resides in Atlanta with his wife. He has 3 daughters and 1 son and 9 grandchildren, the 9th being born this morning. Welcome our friend, Ambassador Andrew Young.
We are the champions. We are the champions.
Thank you very much, and it really is a pleasure to be here. I didn't know where I was coming, though. I thought I was coming to the Montgomery Rotary, only Montgomery. But Montgomery is a place that made history, and it made history unintentionally. We give Martin Luther King some of the credit he deserves, but really, he was coming here trying to escape leadership. He picked Montgomery because it was a quiet, sleepy, maybe one of the most conservative capitals in the South. But he certainly wanted to get out of Atlanta because, as the son of a famous preacher, he didn't want to be dragged into politics and protest, and he really wanted to settle down and be a very good preacher and to learn how to pastor a church. So he picks the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church right near here, and it was a very staid, sophisticated, sedity church. And he was trying to just grow up. He was 25. And when the bus boycott started, there was no bus boycott. Rosa Parks got arrested. And he was asked to have a meeting there at the church. But he wasn't chairing the meeting. He was in the back room running the mimeograph machine. And there were two preachers, the two big shot preachers in town, kind of had a clash and didn't get along very well. So the women, it's always the women, that went to Brother Nixon, who was the head of the NAACP, and said, why don't we avoid this trouble and let's let this young man chair this committee. And he was informed that he had been elected the chairman of the committee about 7:30, and he had to stand up before the entire city at 8 o'clock and define the movement that changed history. Well, he was extremely well prepared. He had a PhD degree in theology from Boston University, and he's a graduate of Morehouse College, but he wasn't prepared for this. But he didn't have to be, because I contend that nothing we've done in the civil rights movement did we know what we were doing. And I think it's sort of like you get caught up in the spirit. And I know you're not supposed to be religious, but all of us are spiritual whether we want to be or not. We are spiritual beings in a physical body. And so ultimately, we are a part, our dreams are part of our spirit. And so he became transformed by Rosa Parks' frustrations and his dedication. He had his own three-way test, not the four-way test. And his three-way test was very similar. He'd always say, before you say anything, ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And that's almost as good as the four-way test. I keep the four-way test on my desk in a little paperweight. And it's a reminder of just life. But he got caught up in this spirit. And before he knew it, his home was being bombed. He was being stabbed and jailed and sued, and I mean, nothing went right. It was a miserable time, but he loved it because he saw the Spirit of God working through the people around him. And I don't know that he never really took credit for what was going on. It was very much like Mahatma Gandhi in India, who used to say, "There go my people. I must catch them, for I am their leader." And almost everything that happened in my life happened within 100 miles of here, except my being born. I was born in New Orleans. But my wife and his wife went to the same high school in Marion, Alabama. And I had my first date in Selma with my wife, never thinking that I'd come back there to try to change the world. And I didn't. I just came back, and lo and behold, things started happening and the world changed. So I'm a product of people dreaming impossible dreams. And having to look back and wonder how we got over. The spiritual, we say, my soul looks back and wonder how we made it over. How I got over, oh my Lord. My soul looks back and wonders. And I look back and I wonder, and I realize it was a series of accidents. Now, the history books will not tell you that. But a lady by the name of Amelia, born President Johnson, and Martin Luther King and I were together right after he won the Nobel Prize. And President Johnson said, "I know we need to do something about everybody having the right to vote." But we just passed the Civil Rights Bill in June. It's been less than 6 months. I can't go back to Congress with another civil rights bill. I just don't have the power. And almost everything he said, he ended with, "I don't have the power." Well, we left, and I asked Dr. King, well, you know, the president doesn't have the power. I don't mind that. We've been going now. He had started in 55. I joined him in 1961, though I had been running a voter registration drive back in 1954 in Thomasville, Georgia, where my second church was. And I said, it's time we take a sabbatical. You know, we could wait until after the election, see who's going to be president, and then develop a whole new strategy to go after voting rights. And he didn't say anything. I said, "What's wrong with that?" He said, "Nothing, but we got to get the president some power." I said, "Huh?" He said, "I don't know how, but we got to get the president some power." And I said, "Come on, you broke? The organization's broke? You weigh 165 pounds, you ain't but 5 feet 7 inches tall. That's the most egotistical thing I've ever heard. A Morehouse." I said, "They say you men are Morehouse. You can tell a Morehouse man, but you can't tell him much. All men are kind of that way." But I said, that is, I mean, what are you talking about? And he was serious. Well, what happened was, this was the 18th of December, 1964. 2 days later, a lady from Selma drives over with 2 preachers with no appointment and comes into the office and tells us what's going on in Selma. Her name happened to be Amelia Boynton. We named my baby daughter granddaughter, Amelia, this morning. Because Amelia brought us the power of God. But we didn't know that. In fact, we didn't know anything. She just said, you got to come help us. So we got here on the 2nd of January, and things started happening. None of them planned, none of them happened the way we planned it. And lo and behold, I think it was the 28th of March, less than 100 days after the president said he didn't have the power, there was Lyndon Baines Johnson standing up before a joint session of the Congress and introducing voting rights and ending his speech with "We shall overcome." And somehow a series of miracles which nobody planned and most people still don't understand happened that made it possible for us to get from the president saying he had no power to the president standing up assuming power and delivering the right to vote. Now, that's been sort of the way my life has been all along. And so I have not been afraid to dream impossible dreams. I didn't want to be the mayor of Atlanta. It's a nasty, impossible, disgusting job. And it didn't pay you any money. It was $50,000 a year. I didn't have a pension, and I had 4 children, 3 of them in college. And I mean, how are you going to do that? It just didn't make sense. But, you know, I had the time of my life, and everything worked out. And all of these things, the businesses coming, and the Olympics coming after that, and I mean, and I don't know where that came from. But because I've been blessed with, I don't know what it is even. I've not been afraid to dream impossible dreams. And so I'm going to sound crazy from here on. It was kind of crazy before, but you'd at least know it happened. I may be one of the few people that's honest about it. Everybody wants to talk about how dedicated and courageous and all that. We didn't know what we were doing. Let's just face it. And we were all, in fact, Dr. King said when we were coming here, he said, you know, in order to do this, we all have to be certifiably insane, or we'd know better. And we didn't know any better. And so I don't know any better about how dreams come true. And so let me tell you what has been bugging me lately and what I fashioned my foundation around. And which, whether you like it or not, or even know it or not, Bob Hope, who was the sort of the coordinator of the International Rotary Convention, came to me a couple of weeks before the convention, and somebody, I don't know who it was, had to cancel out. And he said, could you speak at Rotary? Well, I thought he was talking about the Atlanta Rotary. And I get that, it's the whole world. But what I was trying to say to them was that right now, everybody thinks the world is messed up. And I talked to 50 African students not long ago, and I said, I'm not going to ask you about Africa, because all you're going to tell me is what's wrong. I said, and the truth of it is, Africa is in better shape now than it's ever been in its history. And, but you can't see it. And that's the way we are about the United States. Everybody can see what's wrong. Nobody sees, we can't put it together yet. But look at medicine. You know, you've seen that little commercial where it's a cancer cell being eaten up and flamed away about the other cancer cell. That's miraculous. And my wife died of cancer, and that brings me to tears almost. Because that didn't exist 25 years ago when she died. And now it does. And you got more power and information. I asked you something just a little while ago, and I forget what it was, but you took your iPhone out and you asked the iPhone. And in 2 seconds, you gave me back the answer. Well, when I was in college, I had to get on a bus, go all the way downtown to the library, stand in line for an hour to check out a book. See? And it would take me a half a day to do what you just did in 2 seconds. And all of us have that capacity now. This is a miraculous time we're living in. And we may not be taking advantage of it, we're enjoying it. But it is a phenomenal time where there's nothing impossible. And the phrase you quoted somebody just now, that if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. And so I grew up on the river. It wasn't a little shack, it was a shotgun house in New Orleans, but my daddy was a dentist that fixed people's teeth in a trailer. And he drove all over Louisiana when I was a boy, fixing people's teeth for free. He'd plug into the parish courthouse and folk would line up and he'd check their teeth and he'd stay there a week and then move on to the next town. Well, almost any time you went, you know, more than 100 miles in Louisiana back in the 30s, that's when we were doing this, right after the Depression, you had to cross the river in a ferry. And we were singing about Old Man River, and we were reading Tom Sawyer. And so I've been fascinated with this river. It was also the time that Franklin Roosevelt created the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps. And all of these levees that we have along the river were built by unemployed workers from the cities that were put in a military-style uniform and given a certain discipline, and they were brought from the cities of the north where they were unemployed, and they hauled sandbags and they dug ditches and they planted trees and they built the levees. That was about 1936. That's the last time the federal government has invested any money, major money, in protecting the Mississippi River and the infrastructure of the Mississippi River and the cities along the way. Well, I had a good run in Atlanta. Everything I wanted to do, we did in 8 years. And then they added on the Olympics, and then they're about to screw it up now, but I'm gonna get back and try to get it, you know, because everybody's thinking about who's gonna be mayor next, and nobody's thinking about what has to be done today. You know, they're political games and not serving humanity. But we really built an airport with no money, but it generates $50 billion a year, and it employs over 1 million people. It's been the economic generator of the whole Southeast. We don't have a penny of taxpayer money in it. It's all, you know, we didn't go to Washington because Washington's broke. And we're one of the few cities that consistently went to Wall Street. And when we could define a project and get the private sector to partner with us, we could issue some tax-exempt municipal bonds. And everybody likes them and everybody bought them. So we just kept issuing bond after bond after bond. That airport got bigger and bigger. When I started there, the Atlanta airport was a Quonset hut with one runway. But the mayor who built that one runway had the vision to be so that it was the only runway in the South that was long enough for jets. But no airline was flying jets. But he was thinking jets. He was dreaming jets. And so when Delta decided to grow, he brought them from Louisiana, stole them, and brought them to Atlanta. And really, that airport should be in Monroe, Louisiana, if it had grown with Delta. But he had imagination, he had vision, and now Delta all over the world. But it's not costing any money, it is generating money. And because of that, we did that with the Olympics. We raised $2.5 billion privately in the Olympics. And we made sure that it was spread evenly across the country. I mean, that minorities got 40% of the $2.5 billion, and we did everything, gave it away back to the city, and we had $100 million left over. And everybody worked as a volunteer. So, I mean, we just didn't know, we weren't trying to make money, we were trying to have the Olympics. Everybody had a job, but they gave their time, and there are ways to make things happen. And so I've been trying to see, can't we do something like that with the cities along the river? So starting with the mayors in New Orleans, between New Orleans and Minneapolis and St. Paul, we have 83 mayors that are working together and thinking together, what can we do about this river? So that we are prepared when the flood comes. It's not a matter of if, it's when and where. And we've got space stations going around the world every 90 seconds, I thought, something like that. Maybe, I don't know how long it is, but they're going around and they look. And they can see what's coming. They can compare it with what happened last year, and the science is all there. Everything is there but the imagination. We're still thinking of 83 cities. We're still thinking that there are 31 states. Half of them are part of this group. But nobody thinks, you're the first people I've run into that thinks of this region like you're part of the same family and share all of the same problems. And that's one of the quiet miracles of Rotary that nobody fully understands, but when you want to get a job done, you can't get the churches together. You can't get the politicians together. You got to have 50% of the vote. People have to agree. But in Rotary, you have people who, I don't know who's trying to stop me, but somebody dialing me, telling me I'm talking too long. Not yet. Well, forgive me. So we've been trying to figure out how to get together. And the same mechanism that generated the money to put into the airport, which is 25 or 30 billion dollars privately. I contended, and I went to see President Bush. I just got there on the wrong day. And I've been going since then, since Katrina, trying to say, look, there's more than enough brain power in the world. You've got a collection of the finest universities anywhere in the world, in the states along that river, starting with Tulane, Loyola, LSU, Arkansas, St. Louis, Tennessee, Ohio, Missouri. I mean, There's more brain power there than maybe any other place in the world. There's no place in the world as safe as the Mississippi River corridor for investing your money. If you talk about Fortune 500 companies, you got Caterpillar and you got Archer Daniels Midland and Cargill and I don't know, but every state along that river has a Fortune 500 company or two or three. And we just have never thought together about how are we going to stop the flooding. Or better still, look at it positively. How are we going to take the energy of the Mississippi River and turn it for good rather than wait till it overflows and destroys us? Only 2% of the water on the planet is fresh water. And that's one of the most valuable freshwater faucets anywhere in the world. And we let it run down into the Gulf and get salty. So I'm saying that that's one of the things I've been trying to do. Do something about an impossible dream. But it's no more impossible than it was with Selma or Montgomery. But it seems to me that it's the right thing at the right time, and that maybe I was brought here. Now, the other thing that happened with Rotary, after you came to Atlanta, the Nobel Prize Committee was looking for a place to hold a conference every 2 years or 4 years, but they want to get Nobel Peace Prize winners together to talk about the problems of the world. And I think that National Rotary has agreed to work with us, and that they've sort of selected Atlanta as one of the places where this might happen. And the Convention and Visitors Bureau has said, well, the first week in December is a slow week for us with conventions. Let's look at it. So we're looking at how can we bring all of the peace-loving people together, not at the United Nations where we're dealing with it politically, but like you deal with it in Rotary, spiritually, but without credit and without acclaim and without trying to make money on it. And so these are two things that I think I've sort of been, well, the fact that I'm here means that I'm supposed to drag you into it. And I don't know what that requires of you, but it's an idea that I want you to just think about with me. And we see where the Spirit leads us. And I know that the spirituality of this life is miraculous. And many things that, as you said, if you can conceive it and believe it, we can achieve it. God bless you. Okay.
Ambassador, this year, our international president has a theme: be the inspiration. We have an artist amongst us from Illinois who's had the good fortune over the last couple of years to be able to interpret the theme. And we would, from all of us here at this institute, and all of Rotary in our zones, you are an inspiration. And remember us always with this gift.
This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountain